I'm open to, in the last few minutes, just thinking through some steps that the group here that's left can imagine that we can take right now to see if we can create a 2025 growing season. So who has anything to add?
I would just say, and toss this out to Capital City and Hy-Vee, a schedule of high demand items with flat price quotes so that our grower community can go back to the drawing board and see if they can deliver.
So we have a calendar that'll show by month, by item. It's 5 pages, probably, I don't know, 30, 40 items maybe.
Okay.
And it'll tell you what month they're, heavier and when they start coming off. That's a really good tool. It's not 100% accurate due to Mother Nature, but it's pretty close. We also, I don't remember, somebody mentioned an average, but we look at 3 and sometimes 5-year price averages as well to look at things like that. So if I can, I will try to provide average prices over the last few years. We try to take out, like 2020, we take it out. But, in the normal market years, we do an average as well when we do contracts because there's nothing else we can pull from. But if I can do that over the last 3 years, what each item we were paying in a range maybe, if it wasn't a contract rate, it'd be a range. If I can do that and there's no, reason I can see now, but if the owner tells me for some reason I can't, but otherwise I should be okay providing something like that. And then also, I don't know where she went, but I'll try to find the local growers, at least the cities that we're in now, as much as I can to give you an idea. There's not a lot in Iowa, but we're pulling from different regions. I'll just try to put, some of the main areas in the Minnesota, Wisconsin, Missouri, Illinois, Nebraska. We get a lot of local grown watermelon out of Nebraska too, that Hy-Vee owns. They buy almost all of it from us. We could probably use more of that.
Do you guys have different prices for quality, like different grades of size and blemishes?
We rarely reject anything at our facility, and we pay for the whole shipment. We don't, your product has to meet a certain spec no matter what.
Yeah.
So there is no reason to pay you, it's not gonna be paid, it's really exceptional. You don't want me paying you less than, it'll be more consistent. But there are some key items. Labor, H2A programs, if you scale up that high, a lot of growers will have these programs in place, and they're not horribly difficult, as we were trying to say. They do this, they have the same people coming up every year, they go back home, and they love coming up. There's certain rules, you have to provide them housing and some things, that you're gonna do anyway, probably. But there are ways, if you really wanted to scale into, produce of 30, 40, 100, 200 acres, 500 acres, you can scale your labor with people that wanna come. And they make more money here, and then they send it back home, and they go back home, and then they're good, just the way it works.
And so there's a non-abusive way of using that H2A
Yes.
labor that we could feel comfortable.
And it's legal.
It's legal, it's not perfect. There are some challenges I've heard over the 9 years I've been in this business, but it's, I think there's some focus on improving the Farm Bill, and the H2A program especially. They're trying to improve that.
They're looking to make it more flexible, yeah.
Right.
Brent, I have a question about product that Jeff brought up. So number 1, but number 2 is that you could use for processing, you could also accept.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we buy the whole,
You buy the whole
pieces, we buy the whole crop.
Oh, you buy the whole crop and then you sort it?
Use it.
Right. We sort it. You don't have to sort. You just put it in a.
Oh,
I shouldn't say that. You actually will have to sort, but we can buy the whole thing.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
so we
So
can
sort
figure
and
out,
then
Yes.
and whether we use the collapsible totes or whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, Kyle, from your side, I know that you're food safety, you're not actually in this arena, but can we get an equivalent kind of levelized pricing, can we understand? 'Cause my sense is that the big rate limiting step is the question, can I, as a farmer, make money doing this? And then we have people like Ron and a lot of Savannah, I mean, you're the business viability person for PFI. We don't lack technical expertise nor technical assistance, I think, to help people actually grow at a level and really understand before we ever get into it, whether it's gonna be successful or not. I mean, we can't guarantee anything, but I think we can de-risk the thing to the point where it becomes something attractive. At least that is my belief, you know, maybe an untutored belief, it's my belief. So from your perspective, Kyle, what do you think Hy-Vee can do to kind of solidify the demand side so we can start working on the supply side?
Well, kind of like I said earlier, I think we've got that gap between real local and then, you know, wholesale or distribution, right? So that's where I think Capital City is an important partner in this venture. But, you know, from a retail pricing standpoint, I think our answer's out there in the store, right? Like, because if we're going direct to store or we're going hyper local, then you can see the price point of the competition, and that, you know, we kind of had this discussion a little bit, but I think that's where we need to be, right? Like, there's a certain percentage over that price point that you're selling against, you know, that the customer's going to back away from the product, and it depends on the market you're in when that decision's made. You know, I think you're gonna have more palatability in West Des Moines for a higher retail price on a local grown product than you will in a small rural community where maybe that isn't as valuable to that customer, right? So the closer we can keep that price together, the more likely it is to succeed. If the price is neutral, they're always probably going to choose the local option, is my opinion, and I think what some of the research shows. So how close to that match can we get? Because that's a win-win for all parties.
So it's closer to 50% margin, or like?
That's what I was wondering, is there a ballpark, like, we walk in the store, but then what's the margin on it, like, what's?
Yeah, and I don't have that answer, it's not my,
But we
it's not
can
my
get
area,
that answer.
but I think that changes by store too, you know, they want to see that local succeed, and that's where that conversation with the produce department has to take place. The stores are given a lot of autonomy there, especially with local, and so local matters. They should be able to give you the better opportunity to be there in that space, right? So that's why it's important for that discussion to happen, that partnership to start to form, and talk early about these commodities that we're looking at. What is it that you're able to offer? What price point can they come at more directly with you, right? So
generally the margin is you wholesale for, let's say, $1 a pound, and Hy-Vee or another brick and mortar grocery store marks it up 20%. So it's a $2 that price point to the consumer.
So, okay, so, any other thoughts? Because I have a thought. John, here's my thought. Let's see if we can work with Cap City to get, Brent to get you that list. And we've got this incredibly phenomenal guide that Ron created. We'll start doing the research with Hy-Vee. If you can show us, Brent, what Cap City can buy, then maybe we do the same thing with Hy-Vee at the store level. We're not gonna be at I think we're either at the store level now or at Cap City level. So to make it relatively simple, unless there's a big discrepancy between what both of your entities want, maybe we could kind of levelize the thing out, say, okay, we're gonna focus on these 6 crops or these 10 crops. Once we get that, then I think we can self-organize with the people who are here and some of the people who left to start looking at what would it take and work with Ron. What would it take to get people to sign up and say, yeah, I'd like to do it, and then figure out, you know, there's a lot of logistics there, but I think that once we find out what we can sell and what these folks will buy, then we go to look at the supply side and we look at organizing production of that. Then we start looking at, is it renting a little space here, or is it just having Cap City drop a refrigerated trailer, you know, on the site here? What is the minimum viable system that we can set up in order to stand something up that means that is non-trivial for this next season. That's what I've gotten out of it.
I would agree, and I think with every new product or every new customer we take on, we have a process in place, and there's always a trial in first. With Hy-Vee, we went into producing local strawberries during the winter. I had a Pella with, what's his name?
Grower down
Yes, the greenhouse grower. I can't remember his name. He sold out. Anyway, we did that, but we trialed it in 10 stores first.
Yeah.
Let's do a trial, maybe in 2025, it's a trial. And we start with a trailer or something
Yeah.
and see if it's even viable with the high products that we know we can all sell and they're easier to grow maybe. There's not as much risk. There is gonna be risk. You know, maybe it's just an experiment the first year. Be willing to win or lose, you know. In our experience, you know, with the strawberries, they never made money. So, and we couldn't get them to scale because of the varieties, and we were not necessarily the best strawberry farmers. We learned a lot, and they were the best tasting strawberries ever, but we couldn't scale it, so we had to stop it. Dion, that's what it is. But anyway, maybe that's what you do. We do a trial with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items that you're comfortable. Maybe everyone picks an item.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. But there are certain items that are more volume, you know, more volume during the summer, during local season than others. And they're probably gonna be almost identical for Hy-Vee, same items. So I'll take a look, see what our top local items or items are during that time. Like I said earlier, during local, 90+% of our stuff, 95% of our stuff going to all customers is local. And that local is not just, that's like Midwest to me.
Right.
It's not hyper local,
Right.
that won't work for us. That's where you go to your store. You're gonna, you know, if you can deliver and take the time and the energy of the logistics and the process and selling to Hy-Vee, I think they do it differently at the stores. Doing it through corporate is much more involved. At the store level, I think they can do it a little easier with you. So just depends on what you wanna get involved in. But maybe a trial is what your goal is for 2025. And then maybe you kill it. If it doesn't work, everybody goes, you know what?
Okay, we
It
tried.
work.
Give
Then
it a shot.
again,
New commodity or, you know.
yeah, and then maybe the next year you go, you know what? That wasn't so bad. I didn't, you know, lose everything.
Sure, right. Okay, good. So that's a path. We'll figure out a half a dozen, 5, whatever crops. You guys decide, you know, what will work for both, so we can only, don't have to think about 5 or 6. And then we will start organizing the production side of the thing. Once we get the scale, because maybe we have a lot of people say, yeah, I'd like to try that. And all of a sudden, we've got more scale. So we'll size the system in the middle just exactly right as we can for that scale. Then the other thing is, I'd like, Ron, for you to talk to us for just a moment before we break about the whole idea of maximizing the production of each acre rather than trying to scale to more acres. That really made sense to me, and I think it'll make sense to a lot of the people here, because I think that's our orientation. How do we actually go deep into each acre and extract the greatest value rather than simply trying to aggregate more acres?
Yeah, so the subject came up last night at dinner, actually, over fried chicken. You know, we scaled up corn and soybeans, and I think we've hit the maximum scale we can be at. And some of the larger operations are crumbling because of scale. But we scaled it up and it didn't work. So after we scaled it as far as we have, we're not making any more money. Corn isn't a better price. Profitability per acre isn't any better. So scale didn't work. So if we look at produce and we start making money with produce, how do we look at every acre of our land differently as 43,560 square feet that we own or rent, that we steward, and every year this asset becomes more valuable? In other words, we increase its resilience. Mary Ellen brought up food sovereignty. Food sovereignty is our ability to feed ourselves. And so in Europe, Germany, Italy, Switzerland has 40% of the land base to feed 100% of their people. They're 60% dependent on foreign shores feeding them. In the United States, we are dependent on foreign shores feeding us while we have an abundance of land to produce our own food. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. Scale doesn't solve problems. So what about scope? Let's look at every acre. What's the maximum amount of scope? Can we increase organic matter, increase water holding capacity? Can we increase productivity of that land? Is that land more resilient to climate change? Can we grow a crop that's deep rooted and sell it at a fair price and pull up nutrients, mine our own farm for nutrients at the same time, lowering our input cost? Can we then come back and rotate a crop? And we were talking about grain. It's like, I like oats. Oats has a limited market. Hard red wheat has a market because local bakeries have reemerged. And so a farm can service a local bakery. And if you're servicing a local bakery, you don't need 500 acres of wheat. You might need 5 acres of wheat or 10 acres of wheat. And so look at that acre that you grew the butternut squash on, take the squash off, put winter wheat on it, harvest the wheat crop the next year, have a cover crop on it, get your nutrients down. And so the next year, maybe we plant a brassica that we plant in late March in this part of the world. And we're harvesting that in mid-June. And then we come back with another crop and we sequentially plant, we take 2 crops off. And we take off 2 crops that are complementary to each other. So we plant, in our CSA, we plant sugar snap and mainly sugar snap peas because the kids love them. And then when the sugar snap peas come off, we plant broccoli because our best fall broccoli always comes off where we had peas earlier in the season. So we have 2 crops. We have 2 incomes off the same acre. And then we put a cover crop on and we start building that soil for next year. We make all of our own compost. Online, you can get the recipes for Vermont compost now. You can make your own Vermont compost. People pay a fortune for Vermont compost. You can make it, sell it to your neighbors. We should be selling seeds. You know, all of your brassicas go to seeds. You can save those seeds. You can reuse them. You can sell them. We used to sell seeds. When we do a whole system farm plan, we have a minimum requirement that a farm have 20 revenue streams. They're not all corn and beans. Some of them may be in a 10-year rotation. You know, the USDA calls hybrid poplars a short rotation woody crop. You harvest them every 10 years. That's a short rotation. So in the East Coast, they pay $300 a poplar tree in 10 years. And the number you can plant, you can make far more growing poplar trees on the East Coast. In Iowa, the lumber people will not buy hybrid poplars. So it's not an opportunity. But how do you look at that acre that you're going to rotate it with different revenue streams and that have different labor needs and have different time frames? So like where you're planting the garlic, you plant it in the fall, you harvest it in July. In July, you're not harvesting a lot of other things. None of your long season crops have come in, your early season crops are already gone. So that's the discussion of how do we look at our farm differently? How do we look at the land that we rent differently? I know a farmer that's running an 800-member CSA. He rents 16 acres of farmland. He pays his rent on 16 acres. That's his only land cost. It's not much. He's generating about $500,000 of revenue a year. He has all worker shares. He has no labor cost. He has no additional insurance cost. He's making a little money. But we've lost intensive somehow as we've looked at scale. And one of the things that we do right away when we started talking about small grains was, well, can we go to scale and satisfy the market? No, let's make the market that will fit with what our production area is. So that's it, Bob.
One note you just made me think of is, so I come from the dairy industry, like in Wisconsin where I was growing up. Every quarter mile there was a dairy farm, 30, 40 cows, right? It was before the crisis in the 80s. after the crisis, there's a farm every mile, 2 miles, and, now the cows are 500 to 2,000, 5,000 cow farms, right? So which farms survived? The ones that were the best businessmen. It wasn't about farming, it was about making the right business decisions. So we, this group, probably, it's important that we help with that business and that can facilitate a lot of things.
So in Wisconsin, when I look for produce growers, I say, where's the guy that used to dairy? The guy who used to dairy, he knows about food safety, he knows about requirements.
Hard work.
Say,
And probably have some smaller fields that aren't so big.
they got tons of dairymen around and they grow vegetables like crazy. And it's like, here's what you have to do for GAP, and it's like, that's all I have to do?
That's all I have to do.
Thanks, Ben.
Hi, everybody, thank you, Ron, it was a
Hi.
pleasure to meet you.
Thank
It's
you.
an awesome day.
Kyle, one thing I
Right,
wanted to add on to what you said, and I appreciate you picking up on soil health. I think we've been doing soil health tests across multiple states, and we thought we had to do a soil health test on every field. And we found out something that we weren't looking for, and that is the soil test health didn't vary by field, it varies by farmer. And the health of the soil is more an indication of the operator than it is the soil.
On that beautiful point, thank you, a round of applause for all of us. Thank you very much. Bill, thank you for being with us.